Welcome to the Uefn Horror Mega Guide. I'm going to teach you everything that you're going to need to know to create your first horror game in Uefn. This is going to cover everything you need to know, like swaying camera walking that we have now, post-processing, importing assets, importing sounds, optimizing it, cinematics. It is going to show you everything that you need to know. So buckle up and get ready for the video. Welcome to the Uefn Horror Mega Guide. First, we're going to start off by going into island templates because I'm assuming you already have Uefn downloaded. And we're going to go choose blank and we're going to call this one Mega Tutorial Horror. Surprised we can even write a name that long, but it's perfect for us. Well, this is perfect. We've already completed the first stage of the tutorial. Next up, I'm going to show you two different ways of importing assets into your world. One is just opening up the Fab store and we can type whatever, horror, things like this. You don't actually have to type in horror if you want to make like a house kind of game, you know, a horror game set inside of a house. You could find one that matches what you would like. When buying on Fab, it's important you buy the actual UE5 version and not the Uefn reference only, because otherwise you're not going to be able to optimize your game, and that's going to be very important for getting this map played by lots of people. Another place we can download things is Sketchfab. On here we have to do the search by, license CC by, and we choose something we would like. We just have to give credit, essentially. You'd press download. I think FBX and GLB work or something like that, but I always download in FBX. Next up, we're going to need to import sounds. This is again kind of easy. We just go to a sound site where we can just give attributions to use. Most commonly used is Pixabay. We just choose music or sound effects, type in whichever kind of sound we'd like. For example, we want this yawn, we download it. We can't use this straight away though. So once you've got your sound, you're going to need Audacity as well. So then you open Audacity. The mic's going to go doo-doo for a second, I think. But we import audio. Just accept this. We export audio to computer. Remember where your sound is getting saved to. Now that it's in the WAV format, we can use it in our game. Perfect. So now we have got custom sounds and custom assets in our game. What we're going to need to do next is optimize these. So I'm going to load into a map where I have got some custom assets in here. If you don't want to do this, or if you're only using normal Fortnite only props, then you can't do anything really other than optimize it for the server, but I will teach you how to do that as well. So let's go and open up our other world. I've got this nice little room I've just created and it looks pretty cool, but we have some problems. We're already at 10% memory usage, okay, from a couple of walls and a piano and a door. This is obviously problematic, but it's good because we know where all these sizes, where all this size is coming from. So what we need to do for the first step, open the textures. We're going to select the first one, go all the way down to the bottom one, right click, asset actions, no, texture source actions, reduce size. You can see I've already reduced all these to 1000 by 1000. Sometimes you're going to have to even make these smaller, but the issue we might run into is that the textures start looking bad. It's just going to have to re-render all this. You can see that the textures have lost a lot, but I think this is still rendering in actually. But that's how you decrease project size for textures, which will save you so much storage and make the game run faster too. Both very important. I'm going to show you how to optimize our props next. Let's open this one up. As you can see, this prop uses 30k triangles near enough, which is obviously way too much for us. So all we're going to need to do here is change keep triangle %, and we're going to let's try 40 first. Our plan here is to reduce this triangle count as much as we can without destroying the asset. So at this point it's starting to get like a little bit blurred, so we can just keep this here. We've reduced the size quite a lot. There's also some settings here with like LODs and stuff. I'm not going to do that in this video though, but it's quite important to do. Just give it a save. That's fine that the name is gone. I didn't need it there. Yes. If we refresh this, it won't show up yet. I need to actually launch a session for it to show up. But next, I'm going to show you how to edit things so that it runs better in the server as well as the game too. So on each thing, we could 3D select this off by going into Fortnite tools, 3D select, and you just control click on two things as far as I remember. No, so you shift click on multiple things and then shift T, control T, alt T. I've forgotten how to do this. Hold X and mouse wheel, that's the one. There we go. So now I've selected all of these things. Hopefully the door's not selected. Great. And what we're going to do is right click, edit components, edit selection and property. Okay, for these ones in specific, it would have been better if I had selected just one at a time, I guess. But essentially what we would do is disable the gravity if we don't need that. I'll select just a couple real quick. So we don't need gravity, so we disable gravity. We also we don't need it to be used for the phone. We do need this to stay on low because we want it to always be visible. But desired max draw distance, we figure out when we need these walls to be seen so we can unrender them so that it runs better all the time. I'm going to right click this and choose edit components in property matrix. In here, we're going to go to details. Oh no, we already did the details actually. It seems that I forgot, but in this video for max draw distance, we are going to change this to a number that only shows when it needs to, so we can unrender all these walls when we're too far away to see them anyway. This just makes the game easier to run for all platforms. Sorry, I think we actually go to edit selection in property matrix. It seems most of this stuff is actually already fine. Yep, that all seems to be fine. There's actually not much more we can do inside of all this, which is fine. This is good actually. So next up on the tutorial is attaching VFX to players. What we're going to need to do is grab a prop that we want to have onto our player. For us, we imported a torch. So we go ahead and create a VFX. Right click into where you'd like this VFX to be stored. Niagara system. Go ahead and choose minimal. And we'll just call this Niagara system torch tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and this is strange. It kind of has everything we have already. Oh, okay, I opened the wrong thing. So delete in renderer, sprite renderer, and add instead static or mesh renderer instead. Inside of particle update, we're going to add static mesh location, and we're going to delete particle state. Inside of initialize particle, we can, I don't think we needed to change that. But inside of emitter state, we want this on self, and then we want it to kill. Loop duration to 0. I'm going to quickly check back inside of this one because sometimes I forget. So we need emitter state, spawn, burst instantaneous as well. Spawn, burst instantaneous. And inside of spawn, burst instantaneous, everything looks fine already. That looks very correct. Can we see it? No. Inside of static mesh renderer, we need to go choose our mesh. Ours is the torch, like that. And then in static mesh location, we are going to go choose sockets, and the rest is fine. When we're actually testing this in the game and attaching it to the player, you're going to need to mess around with these. For example, I'm using mine in first person, and the settings I had to use was this. It's not going to be the same for you guaranteed, but it might help you to get your starting point. So one thing could happen, yours could be invisible or showing grey box material. If that is the case, you're going to need to go create a new material, or if your material can already be edited, that's inside of your torch or whatever prop. So you go click onto the browse to, so you can open it up. This is showing as a material instance. Issue is we need ours to, we just type in Niagara, it's not showing up. which is fine. But yeah, I just replaced the materials in this torch. See, black matte, and then inside of black matte, click onto the checkered background. To create a material, you have to right click and just press material and click onto the black checkered background. And we are going to type in Niagara and enable these so that it can be seen in our VFX. But we're still not got it attached yet. We need to attach this by clicking all, type in VFX power up, and we'll get this device. If your devices ever become invisible, press G. It's because you've gone into game view. So inside of this, we're going to put infinite duration on, respawn on, time to respawn 0, custom effect. You can change the ambient audio to be whatever would make sense for your VFX, or you can just disable it. And I put ours at center for my one, and then I think I just did torch. Check, yeah. Play around where it needs to be for you. I'm using this in first person. To get into first person, you just type in first person camera and you throw one down just like that. And the settings themselves should be fine by default. You can change them if you need to. But yeah, so inside of here, you spawn into the game, see how your torch looks, and then you figure out how much you need to change it. So next up is custom flashlights. So we're actually going to make this be working with this flashlight here, but it won't have its own light, but it's fine. To get this, you're going to need to join my Discord server. Inside of my Discord server, come into free stuff, lighter/flashlight video, go download. It's not dangerous, don't worry. The reason it's so big is because I actually included a lighter and a flashlight with this. It's not the same one I used. It's not the same one I used in the video, but it's fine. And then you just go extract this folder. I should have just uploaded the first file itself. For this video, I might do that for you guys. So open up our folder, click on content. This is all the flashlights and stuff. We just need the things that say verse, or at least I do. So look, we got flashlight controller, flashlight battery. We do not need both, we just need these two flashlight controllers. So we've copied both. Now what we're going to do is right click on our project folder, click on show in Explorer. We can just copy paste these in, press compile verse in the top of the screen. And now we have two flashlights, which is perfect. So let's put our flashlight controller down and we're going to add a switch. This switch is per player. So we're going to call this switch torch toggler. We're going to have it off by start, I suppose. And we're going to turn it on whenever we need it to. But we're also going to have a input trigger. Essentially, this input trigger will, on pressed, will toggle the state. So basically, every time they click or unclick, it's going to give them this. Again, it's future GISMO. We're actually going to get rid of this input trigger because how this code was written, I had it changed so that when you enable or disable it, it enables and disables it for everybody. So this means you can give everybody a light when you want to, but they can't turn it off and on. It's not the end of the world, but what is special about this is that you can actually set up multiple different kind of lights instead, which is a good benefit. Flashlight. So on input pressed. And then add a torch. Add a light device. And for every player in your game, you're going to need to add a new light device. So just like that, that will work correctly. What I'm also going to do is toggle this with the... I'm going to pick up our VFX when this switch is turned on. And I'm going to clear this switch, clear this VFX when this switch is turned off. So... I don't know if I said, but for every player, you need to add their own light. So if you have 4 players, create 4 lights and then 4 light devices. For this, I'm going to have them have this from the beginning. But if you didn't, then you'd unregister players and unregister players. That is how you'd be doing this. But let's just check. So toggle from the input trigger and pick up, turn off this. That seems fine to me. Let's go test this out real quick. It'd be fun to see how much the shape size has changed too, now that we have optimized the static mesh and optimized the textures. Go ahead and see if this works, guys. Everything should be working correctly. So we spawn in, press E, and we get our flashlight, and we get our light. Obviously change the light settings. Probably you'd want to change your trigger as well. It'd be like, instead of interact, maybe shoot, which is fire. Yep. And then let's go and change light size to 25. And light intensity, let's go to 30, and we'll just quickly recheck this. We'd probably change it as well from point light to spotlight. Difference, forget sometimes. Point light, spotlight. Yeah, we want it on spotlight too. So let's go take a look now. Again, now we changed the settings a bit. We're gonna get our little torch, and we have our light too. It's pretty cool, guys. So on to the next part of the video. Next up on the tutorial. Okay. Next up on the tutorial, we're going to be showing you how to add some cinematics. Super simple. We're just going to have ourselves spawn in. Let's create a folder called cinematics. One thing I didn't do very well in this tutorial is tell you guys to show you about organizing your folders. I'm sorry for that. I should have gave you better advice. Same with the outlier. I didn't give you guys some good information there, but you should try and keep these as organized as possible. Helps if you're coming back to it. If you've not been on in a while, it's generally just good practice, and if you ever work with somebody in the future, they would benefit from knowing where everything is as well. So let's right click cinematics level sequence. We're just going to call this introduction. This won't be my actual introduction, but I am going to make this into a map. But let's open this up. We click on this camera here, and this will add a camera. So we could just pretend we're on the piano. We need to create things called keyframes in cinematics. So if we want to move this, we have to create a keyframe first. So it'll move from this keyframe. So I move it around to here, and we can create another keyframe over here. This way it just does that movement that you just seen. Not sure why we'd need this, but I'm just showing. We can actually change how the movement happens. I'm pretty sure this is what that is, at least. Yeah, so this changes how the movement is I guess calculated, because this is auto. We'll look at it again, and then this one is constant. Let's try that. Or maybe these are all the same, and I'm not showing very well. That doesn't make sense. I just did that. Okay, boom. Let's take a look again. I'm not doing very good at teaching these right now. Let's take a look. Delete this keyframe. What? Okay, so yeah. So constant was not good for us. So it's the first one that will need to get changed, I guess. That's the one that changes the movement. So let's try this on linear. Yeah, okay. So you can definitely see the change. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure which is which, because I typically just use the default one. To add sound, we're going to need to go press audio track, accept, and we will have the audio that we imported earlier in the video if you wanted to add an audio. Some things that you might want to do as well is change the aperture. You'll see this with the light on, you can't see it without. This essentially changes focus. You won't notice this in low settings, but in high settings you do notice this, so it's important you get this right for people that's on higher settings. This is zooming in and out, like how wide of an angle you want, and focus distance is also about focus, so if it's going to be blurred or not. You might need to be changing this like along the way, but yeah. Another thing we can add is a fade track. Essentially, if we wanted it to go like in and out of black, again, keyframes, so you have to create a keyframe, and then we can go to like 1 if we wanted it to, and then fade back out again. This is just so we can have our cutscene to have black parts and non-black parts. There is a way to make these have like black bars, you know, change the, what's the word, the resolution, kind of. But I don't really typically use it, so I've kind of forgotten how to do it. But this isn't the best cutscene tutorial, but this is similar to how we would be doing it with a jump scare. Essentially, with a jump scare, yeah, how we do this with a jump scare is similar to how we just created this cutscene here. I'm going to go create a new cinematic, right click cinematics level sequence, and we can just type in jump scare. Typically, there's a couple of ways to do a jump scare. You can just have something up here, which we'd do similarly. So we could just duplicate this, have it off screen, it to the add actor to track, and we just have it like, you know, burst onto the screen, like boom, and it would jump scare you. Obviously, you'd add your audio, but another way that you can do a jump scare is like this. You add your camera. You'd probably have some kind of zoom in. So you'd keyframe your settings here. You know, you'd zoom it in, so that zooms in on them. And we'd also create a camera shake for this. So let's go and create one now and add it to this camera shake. We don't actually have one yet, so we need to make one. So it's in blueprint class, camera shake. Camera shake source actor, camera shake base, I think actually. Camera shake. I found out where our camera settings would be to change the like lens if you wanted it to be like, you know, different like resolutions. Okay, well, here's our camera shake. Open up the camera shake and single instance we can just turn on, choose Perlin noise, and we just quickly put some numbers in here, mess around with it, find what works for you. 2 of each will work for us, and blend into 0, have it on 3 seconds. Essentially just messing around with these settings. I'm just creating it for the sake of adding it into our jump scare cinematic. So we right click on here, camera shake, add it to the camera, and we can see we got a little jump scare kind of. I mean, I know it's the piano, so we're not really going to be getting scared by piano that commonly, but you'd obviously put your like villain in this camera shot. Next up, we actually need to play the cinematic, so let's go and do that now. We type in cinematic sequencer device. Oh, I'm still in my old camera. Let's go click up here and choose perspective. Close the sequencer out anyway, don't need that right now in a moment. So yeah, put down our cinematic sequence device, choose the sequencer you want to play. Example, we want to jump scare, and then we need to think when we want this to play. We could have this play from a trigger being stepped on, and we just link that to play sequence trigger. Typically linking it to the trigger is just easy. We could have it with a mutator. You know, if they're walking inside of the zone, then this will play. When they interact with a button, when they complete a tracker, there's so many ways you can link this up to, so you just need to think where you want yours connected to. And you also need to choose if you want it to be shown for everyone or just the person that triggered the activation. Well. In this part of the video, we're going to talk about lighting. Some things that we need to know about lighting is that there's many different types of lights. We have these 5 lights here. Directional light is for like illuminating the entire world. And then we have point light, which lights everything in the circle. And it's like a sphere around it. And then we have spotlight, which does it in a circular area. And we have rectangular, which is similar, but instead of circle, it's rectangle. And we also have, lastly, skylight, which you can't see right now. I have disabled my time of day because I'm only doing it indoors, so I want just like these kind of lightings. One thing we need to know about lights is they're very difficult for the game to run and render. So what we need to understand is that where possible in our lights, we want cast shadows off unless it's very important to have them on in this case. For example, I don't have them on here, but sometimes we are going to need them on. I don't have them on here either. But yeah, where possible as well, you're going to want to use rectangle lights instead of, where possible, we want rectangular lights because they're easier to run as well. We need to have the attenuation radius as low as we can because, so let's make it a bit bigger. The reason why we want small attenuation radius is easier to run. Inside of like our props as well, we realistically want dynamic shadow off because they're most expensive to run. Obviously shadows off. Another thing we can do here is lighting channels. So this is so it makes it easier to run, but also it makes it so that only specific parts can be lighted up. So if I disable part 1 or if I disable part 1, you'll see this blue outside light is no longer here. If I disable the all channel, which is like typically 0, you see that it's got like no light on it except from that little blue bit. The last thing we need to realistically know about lights, well, 2 more things. Always make sure it's static where possible. Oh, that one even the light. Always make sure it's stationary. By default, most of the time it will be stationary, but if it's not, make sure it is. And then we need to know about LODs as well. Should this light be available for everyone to see, then it should be on low. If only high-end players can see this light, maybe it's like a fire that just has a tiny little effect, put that onto epic or high or something. The last thing that we need to know about is inside of performance, max draw distance. We are going to go and set this to a number that where the player, for example, is no longer in this room, we do not want their light to be rendered, because performance, you see, once we go far enough away, the light will turn off. This just makes it easier to run, which is very important. And you can set a fade if you want to and just like abruptly turn off, but if you've got it right, you won't really need to. That's this for lighting. Welcome to the post-processing part of this mega guide. So some things we're going to need to know. There's 2 different ways we can do post-process. There's one, we can just add a post-process device, type it in, whack that on to the screen, and we can have this like enable or disable whenever we want. There's lots of post-processing presets so you can just use straight out the box. We don't need it personally, but there's lots of cool ones you can look at. You're only going to see those once inside of that device when you got the game loaded up, so that's something to note. We're going to go into this little cube up here, add post-processing volume, or add volume, post-process volume. Now there's some settings here. If you want it to only be in a specific space, let's drag it into the room. But if you want it to only be in a specific space, you just change these like X, Y, and Z settings. But for us, we're going to set it to internet extent unbound, which means that the entire map is going to be receiving these effects. It's not always going to be what you want. Sometimes you do want different rooms to have different post-process, but that's for you to figure out. So with horrors, you can see bloom. Typically horrors don't have much bloom. Maybe you could have a scene where it does need the bloom, but typically we don't need to change the bloom settings. Gaussian, if that's how you say it. You can play around with these settings again. I don't really touch these settings. You have convolution. I'm not sure what convolution is. I don't change many settings typically. So you can change the exposure if you want it to be like really dark. I mean, again, I just use default exposure, but you could change your like min brightness, max brightness to whatever you need. Again, I'm not going to be changing these myself. Chromatic abbreviation, most horrors do have this on inside of Fortnite. Fiddle around with it to try and get like the look that you want. What it does, it's like it bends light, I'm pretty sure, and it gives like that multiple colored kind of effect. I'm trying to display it, but I'm not doing a great job. You can see it over here where there's like multiple different like colors. But yeah, lots of the horrors in Fortnite use this effect. Then we have dark mask. Again, we don't even have a dark mask texture, but that's where you change this to. This camera, I won't change that. Lens flare. We don't really need a lens flare personally. Vignette. We can add a vignette. Sometimes hard to see. When I'm using a vignette, I normally use that post-processing device from before. We can change the color, how warm or cold we want it to be. We want like a warm scene. You know, this looks very homely, kind of relaxing. But then if we made it like not that cold, but like a bit colder, it looks like less inviting. So this is where you could have like different rooms having different temperatures. Saturation, I mean, I don't typically change saturation, but you could have unsaturated. I wouldn't go with more saturated for a horror though. Lots of things here we can change. Again, I don't change most of these other than the ones that I have already changed. Film grain, I do use this sometimes. See if we can make it visible. You can see it. I normally add this, but not so much. But yeah, there's a couple of things we can change. Let's go ahead and look at this again. Yeah, I don't think I want to change any of the rest of this. But let's take a look at the before and after, just of these small changes. If you need much more than what we've shown here, I suggest watching like a full video just for post-processing in specific. But let's disable unbound, and we can see that it looks a bit more horror-y, you see. This looks like more welcoming, more warm, and how we've changed it, it looks a bit like less nice of a place, just from mainly changing the color. But yeah, that is post-processing. I am just going to plug in my island. I am just going to plug in my how to make a tracker tutorial here. It'll be an old video. One thing you need to know though is in your tracker, when we're creating a widget, the settings have changed. You know what, I'll just show you now actually. Go into blueprint class. No, sorry. User interface widget blueprint. Widget. This will be for setting custom objectives that you want them to go do, and you want them to see that it's visible on their screen. So starting off, we need to drag on a canvas panel, and we actually need to go into open up view models. This is what is it's like a recent update, so older tracker videos just missed this, and that's it really. So we choose tracker view model, select close, and we just go ahead and put everything we need to. For example, text, and then we go and add a text block widget. I think we might be able to just press here because they have changed it. So yes, so we can just choose like name. They've made this actually much easier, which is really nice. Delete that. So this will be the name of our tracker. It is stuck to text block, so before you bind it, you should probably make sure that you have what you wanted it to say for the sake of example. So put this as title. So now when I bind it, it should still say title. Go copy this. If you needed to have the description as well, you just go ahead, click this, and choose the description. Next up, this wouldn't be a title, but it's fine. We know this one's the description. For the sake of numbers, we're going to check that this even has the right kind of thing. Otherwise, we might have to do some different bindings. See, so it's showing percentage. So if we wanted it as a percentage, that would be fine for us, but we don't. We would want ours to be like, you know, 2 out of 5, for example. I'm just saying, for example's sake, make these into multiple ones. So you guys would make sure that your stuff is better done than this. But let me delete this. And also you should name it all to make it just easier for you. If you didn't want to make it like reusable, you wouldn't need to be doing all these bindings, but it makes the most sense to do it this way. So you'd want to go and turn this text into an integer, and then for its value, well, I don't know if I've shown you how to do it properly. Let me just delete this actually, and we'll start from the beginning. So add condition, no, sorry, add widget block. This is the one that we've got selected. I'm just going to call it number so you can see a bit easier. And we'll call this one target, just so that in the bindings it's easier for you to follow. Anyway, so for number, which is this one, we're going to want conversion function to text and then integer. And then for the value, we're going to go and press this little dot, the text thing, and we're going to choose value. And then the same thing for this one, add widget text conversion function to integer and target value. This will be a working tracker, custom tracker, but make it look good, you know, because this does not look good. The default tracker would look better than this. The last two things we're quickly going to run over is going to be island settings. Put them in. You know, typically they're about 4-player, cooperative. Change some settings in here. You can make it 1 round only, and auto start like 40 seconds, whatever. Give them time to spawn in. Change these so they can't respawn unless you need them to respawn, but most of the time you don't want them to respawn. Voice chat, you could turn on voice chat, bubble chat, all this kind of thing. Basically covered the most important things already. Make sure you don't have it to end. Locomotion, I recommend changing to custom, just so that you can change the collision, so that we can disable player collision. This means you can walk through each other, you can't like body block doors. I think that's it for that, at least. We can change some ambience if you want to add some fog. Again, up to you if you need fog. But yeah, these are the main settings that we needed to change. Another thing we need to do is add a mutator zone. This is for changing the player's movement speed. Have this to cover the whole map. We're gonna, make this cover everywhere. What we're gonna want, decide if we want jumping or not. Enable VFX, disable building. Turn off emotes. Most of the time it just ruins the vibe and the ambience of the map. And make the movements but multiply like 75 or 50. You want it to feel like you can move slow but not too slow, And then the island settings, again, you might want to change like the sprint, kind of make it so they move slower, or well, there's lots of things to mess around with. You don't want them to feel too slow, but you also don't want them to run through it too fast. What else? I think we're missing one more thing. Lastly, we're going to add in some camera shake. So this will be showing the entire time we're here, swaying camera. What we're going to need to do, create a blueprint class, create a camera shake base, single instance, add a noise, want timing to be 0 because we want this to be playing forever. Mess around with these settings. You want them to be quite low though. Once we have that done, we're going to go and now create another blueprint class. This time I want camera shake source actor. Just call this blueprint again. Oh shoot. I was going to call it again the same thing, swaying shake. We'll call this one like in-game, I guess. You should be putting these in folders. I'm kind of rushing this a little bit, but overall it should be okay. Choose a linear, bang up these numbers incredibly high, auto start on, and choose the camera shake we just made. Now when you spawn in, oh, okay, so we actually made a mistake there. Apparently we can't have that to be on single instance. Okay, there we go, disable that, and boom. Now when we spawn in, we will have this nice blue looking map. And yeah, let's go and take a look, see if everything's working. Already, ready. Make it look big. So everything looks pretty good. Fantastic. You can obviously change your camera shake to make it more appropriate for your level. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. One last thing that we're missing is actually the UI. One last thing that we're missing is actually the HUD controller. What this does is it enables us to go and disable parts of the UI that we don't want. For example, we don't want the minimap, we don't want XYZ. We can just use this to make it no longer show on our screen. Like HP or health, show health, no, shield. All these things that we don't want to see on the screen anymore, we just remove them like that. And we get a nice clean map at the end of it. Also, I don't remove everything, I'm just showing you how to do it. Then you'd remove all this stuff in the right side next. That's it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, join the Discord in the description, leave a comment, and if you want to make advanced maps like tycoons, roguelikes, then I have a Map Academy link in the description too. That if you join, I obviously get an affiliate commission, so that helps me. I do have my own WAP in the description, but there's nothing in it, so yeah, just join the Discord and subscribe to the YouTube channel.